Good morning, Signature. Happy Tuesday for July 9th, 2020. We've got an information packed sales meeting on tap for you today. We're going to start off with the mortgage moment with Shelly Panzarella here in a second. And it's going to be followed by a panel discussion with Chris Bishop, Teresa McKee, the CEO of Nevada Realtors, and Rocky Finseth, our chief lobbyist with Carrara, Nevada. So we're going to get started right away here with Shelly Panzarella, the mortgage moment. Take it away, Shelly.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. So excited to be with you all. I want to share some great news that's happening in the mortgage industry. So I don't know if you all heard on Friday, the jobs report came out better than expected. So the stock market rallied, which put a little bit of pressure on interest rates, but rates are still going strong in the low 3%. But we are seeing a lot of great things happening in the industry. We're seeing forbearance numbers are coming down. We're seeing unemployment numbers are coming down. Obviously, a lot of this is probably because of the return to work, but great things are happening. We're seeing a lot of purchase applications and pre-qualifications. So thank you to everyone who's reached out to our Prosperity Lending loan officers. With respect to our programs, there's a lot of great things happening with our programs. If you missed my mortgage moment on Monday, there was information as far as jumbo loans making a comeback. So make sure you check that out. There's also some comebacks as far as the non-QM programs. We're seeing some self-employed borrowers being able to take advantage of the bank statement programs again. And for our lower credit score FHA and VA borrowers, we are now lending down to a 620, where some lenders and investors were capped at a 640 or 660 credit score. So a lot of great things happening in the mortgage industry. Make sure that you reach out to your Prosperity Lending loan officer to find out what changes are happening, as well as on Wednesday, Myra and I will be doing a meeting on list reports. So if you are looking for some free marketing tools, you want to do open houses or virtual open houses, or you've got listings, you want to do some single property websites, writers, whatever it may be, or you already have list reports and you want to hear about all of the new changes and upcoming things that are happening with the list reports, join us on Wednesday at noon. There is a website for you to register, which is in your newsletter. So check out the Signature Buzz. And then again, if you have any questions on any of this information that I just shared with you, please make sure to reach out to one of your Prosperity Lending loan officers. That's all I got. Have a happy Tuesday and make it a great week. Back to you.
Thank you, Shelly. Great information as always. And without further ado, we're going to send you over to the Southwest studio where Chris Bishop has Rocky Finseth and Teresa teed up and ready to go. So enjoy, and I'll see you after the meeting.
Hey guys, Chris Bishop here. I'm excited to be doing our next sales meeting. Have a pretty interesting topic. We've been getting a lot of information throughout the state of Nevada with issues and the upcoming election. I kind of feel like I'm Larry King here, presenting some information with great candidates and great people to talk with. So today we have with us two amazing people from Nevada Realtors, and of course Rocky Finseth with Carrara, Nevada, who's our chief lobbyist, and really excited to have him here. And Teresa McKee, our CEO, has been a regular on our sales meetings, so I'm welcoming her back as well. And then yours truly. I happen to be the Nevada Realtors president, and so I'll give my take on a few of these things. So excited to present this information. All right, Rocky and Teresa, thank you guys very much for being here today. Wanted to first kind of give everyone some background on basically the Realtor Party and what that means and what it looks like on a national level, a state level, and a local level. So Teresa, if you kind of recap what that looks like, it'd be helpful.
Sure, thanks Chris. Thanks for inviting me back and thanks for having us here. Being a Realtor member means you have a membership at three levels, the national level, the state level, and the local level. And you're most familiar with your local level because they provide you a lot of your services, a lot of membership services like the MLS and your lockboxes, your education. Nevada Realtors is your state level organization. One of our main focuses is advocacy. We provide the advocacy for both the state and the local levels. That includes our Carrara, Nevada contract, so that you have somebody that lobbies for you and advocates for you at the state level and the local level. The national level, of course, you know, they're the overriding membership. They're the reason that all states are consistent. They have the code of ethics, and that's one of the main things that they do. And we have a lot of leadership that is involved at the national level. So national level is made up of Realtor members just like you as well. And the 3 national, state, and local work together in a lot of areas to provide all of the member services that make up what your membership dues go for.
So just to kind of break that down a little bit more so members get an idea what we're talking about. So of course, Nevada Realtors has rolled out our teletown halls with federal elected officials, which has been fantastic. Thank you, Teresa and Raka, for putting those together. I know that we have Congressman Amade coming up just this, I think it's June 10th. Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cool to be able to interact like that and ask questions to him. And I know that we've had both of our U.S. senators from Nevada, but that's a great example of what it means to be on that national level dealing with federal issues. And then I know that we have a tremendous amount of things that we do on a local level. I remember being involved with BORPAC as local president, and all the time I get questions from people, why isn't the state doing something about this? Or, why aren't they getting involved? And it's really because it's a local topic and a local issue. Rocky, talk a little bit, if you would, about how the GAD structure works on a local level and how they support the members.
Sure, Chris. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So as you said, I serve as the chief lobbyist for the state association. That's the primary hat that I wear, but the other hat that I wear is I have a contractual responsibility to oversee the entire government affairs program for the entire state of Nevada.
Yep.
What does that mean to the members? That means that your local government affairs directors are employees of Carrara, Nevada. They are not employees of the association. They work for my firm. They take direction. They take direction from me. They're hired by me, and I like to say they're also fired by me. But the importance of that is, and it's a unique relationship that you don't see universally across the Realtor Association structure. But what that means for the members is that there is a lot of coordination and conversation between the jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
Our members work in kind of their bubble, say in Reno, or in their bubble in Clark County, not realizing that there may be an issue out in Elko that could have an impact on them, or vice versa, right? A member in Clark County is dealing with a business license issue, and all of a sudden it becomes the exact same issue for the member in Elko or Reno or Minden. So the ability, the structure that frankly, right, people that came before Teresa and came before you really had this vision of how to structure a very unique program that ensured that members statewide were protected.
Sure.
From really bad stuff, and that we all worked together and we all coordinated our activities.
So a great example of that, I think, that everyone will remember and appreciate is the fact that we're all independent contractors, we're all small business owners, and it's been a requirement ever since we got our license that we would have a state of Nevada business license and a municipality license. But before all of this, local municipalities were actually trying to get us to get a license for every single area that we would sell a home in. So that would mean that I'd have to have one for Las Vegas, Clark County, North Las Vegas, Henderson, if I sold homes in all those areas. And your local group of GADs, along with the local association and state association leadership, were able to get on one municipality license, which that was huge. And so I think that was a great accomplishment about how our process works and how working together can cause real change in our industry.
Yeah, that's a great example. Vacation rentals, right?
Yeah.
How vacation rentals are dealt with in Clark County is structurally very different than how policymakers look at it in Clark County is vastly different than how policymakers in Washoe County look at it. So it is the working together ultimately to protect the members.
Sure.
And help the members so that they can continue to do their business. And that's what the local government affairs directors are really focused in on.
Teresa, one of the things that we've talked about many times, and I think that the members don't actually get the reasoning behind it, but we're very specific on staying in our lane. And not only when it comes to issues that are not part of our industry, but also when it comes to dealing with issues that are on another level. And so we don't get into federal politics in most cases as a state. We don't get into local politics as a state because that's not our lane. And it's not that we don't care. I mean, we're all involved. I'm a local association member as well as a national member, but it's that it has to be handled in a separate way by that group. And we just can't, thrust ourselves in the middle of it. Tell us a little bit about why behind that and why that's so important.
Right. Well, if you think about it, we actually have a little bit less of that overlap than in a lot of states. A lot of states, you think about the Miami area, there are multiple regions that are really close, but they're run by different organizations. And there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of policy that is really regional in belief. And you don't want, like, being in Las Vegas, you don't want people in Elko saying, hey, that's a bad policy. It may be a bad policy if it was in Elko, but it's not if it's in Las Vegas. So on the local level, we try to keep local politics at the local level, local issues at the local level, so that the people that are deciding those issues are the people that those issues are going to affect. Same thing with candidates for office. We try to keep those decisions at the level that for the people that are going to be affected. And we draw leadership from those areas to make those decisions. Same thing with national politics. We have representatives that, leaders from the membership that help make those decisions on a national level. But at the local and state level, we just don't go, deciding, hey, let's do a call for action for, the HOPES Act or the CARES Act. We let national take care of that at the national level. So, it just helps keep the people that it affects at that level making those decisions. We don't want, one area of the state making decisions that affect the whole state. We try to bring in leadership and decision makers across the state to help make those state level decisions.
So it's an interesting point.
Actually, if I could, right?
Absolutely.
Just 1 second, right? So when when I got here almost 20 years ago, you guys were all over the board, right? What I love to say
not
is,
state location, but policy.
Correct. You guys had opinions on absolutely everything, right? And what we really tried to do was get you focused and in your lane, right? And when I talk about policymakers, I'm talking about lawmakers. I'm talking about your city councilman, your county commissioner, your legislator, the governor, or your congressperson. Policymakers come to you on real estate related issues because you're the experts, right? You may have an opinion on education funding. You may have an opinion on healthcare policy, but frankly, it's a newsflash. You're not the experts. You're the experts on real estate. And so that's your lane. And we try really hard to keep you in that lane. And then to Teresa's earlier point, right? There's real estate issues in the Clark County market. There's real estate issues statewide. There's real estate issues federally. Yeah. And that's where the 3 tiers come into play.
We definitely have enough to keep us busy. I think that's the point.
Exactly.
I just want to step back for a second, because one of the other things I think is important is, when you get to a certain point in leadership, a lot of people look and say, well, you're the president, you make all the decisions. And while I wish that was true, I'm kind of like the Queen of England. I get to wave, I get to smile, I get to attend and represent us, but the decisions don't come from me directly. They come from the entire group of leadership. And I think that breaking that down for a second, because I don't really know that I've seen anything that really talks about it. We've alluded to it in different sections, but just to break it down so everyone knows. So on a local level, and please correct me where I'm wrong, Rocky, on that, but on the local level, of course, we have the local president and their executive team, which right now would be Tom Blanchard, and they have their entire board of directors. So that's, really the top of the pin, the entire pinnacle for that group. But below them, we have an incredible group that's BORPAC. BORPAC is in charge of looking at local candidates, looking at local fundraising, looking at any issues that would affect us on a local level. And then on top of that, they actually have a PAG, Presidential Advisory Group, that's a political PAG that only looks at local issues that would come forward. And I remember that we just had short-term rentals, which was during my year as local president. We've had issues on sign ordinances and, certain cities picking up open house signs and keeping them forever and dealing with that. And I know that Joe Locatelli does a great job on a local level in Southern Nevada on that. And I know that all the GADs do on a statewide level. But that group, just so people know, when an issue comes in, it's vetted through either that PAG or it's an issue that goes through BORPAC. And BORPAC necessarily acts as its own group, bringing those things forward, working through the process. And it's not like they're not part of the membership. They're made up of amazing members that have either been presidents or board members or, realtors for 40 years in the state that have a lot of knowledge. And so it's not an entry-level group of people that's just making random decisions for real estate. Is that correct on a local level, Rocky, and as far as Southern Nevada? And then I know Northern Nevada has a similar structure.
You're, as usual, Mr. President, you're 100% correct.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The political issues, right? The political issues relative to who's running for county commission or who's running for school board, those are decisions that are made by BORPAC. The policy issues, open house signage, 5-6 years ago when Dave Tina was the president of GLVAR, it was kind of my first experience working with Dave. We had a huge issue out in North Las Vegas where an entity was trying to use the government's power of eminent domain.
I remember
to basically take people's homes and force banks to rewrite nodes. So those are policy issues, and those policy issues work through the political advisory committee. So the policy issues go through that group, and the political decisions go through BORPAC. And you're absolutely correct. Each local the associations up north, whether it's Incline or Reno or Sierra Nevada, they have somewhat similar structures. They're just called different names.
Sure.
But fundamentally, they work very, very similarly.
So then when we move to the state level, the one thing the state has an amazing setup, of course, is our political machine. I mean, the ability for so many members to be involved in the policies and politics in our state when it comes to real estate. And I think that, it's interesting, we have the state board of directors, which is not the large board like many states. I know California has 900 state directors. We only have about 48, I believe, if you add everyone up that's in it, give or take a few each year based on the numbers and the algorithm that it's factored in. But that entity actually doesn't make legislative decisions. We actually have a legislative committee, which right now this year is made up of about 30 plus realtors from around the state. And they're looking at legislative issues. And then of course, in that group, we have a separate group within it that looks just at bills. And I think you told me, Rocky, that they reviewed 800 plus bills in the last session, where they read through all of these real estate related bills, and also how they would be affected by other industries and ours in relationship to real estate. And so the reason we did it was because a property manager is going to notice something that a commercial agent may not, and a commercial agent is going to notice something that a residential agent may not. And so we kind of have a potpourri, if you will, of experience levels and previous people that have been through the process kind of doing that. And of course, we have our legal team that's reviewing it to see how it's going to matter legally and affecting us. On the other side of that coin, we have our state PAC. And I know that Bob Hamrick is our chair right now this year and has done an amazing job. And we have about, would you say, probably about 25 PAC trustees. And you have to run for that position. You are elected within the PAC, and you have to, do an interview and go through a pretty intense process. I know that I've seen it many times. And they have multiple expertise levels. We have some that have been involved for 50 years in the association and understanding how it's been there, and past presidents. And we do have some newer members that, have a understanding of the technology and the current issues that are affecting different groups and subgroups and all of these cool parts. And they actually look at candidates, and they look at their track record with voting with private property rights issues and with real estate. And we look at who we give money to through that process. And so I just know right now they just got done doing interviews by Zoom with how many candidates would you say, Rocky?
We probably interviewed upwards of 20 to 30, 30 candidates.
So Teresa, that brings up an interesting point, on the state level. So, that's kind of our state makeup when it comes to politics. And of course, all of this is brought back to the board of directors. They're involved in understanding the why behind it, and they're seeing the issues that come up. But I get questions every year when we go through this of someone who's within our membership that's running for office, and they're like, the association didn't support me and I'm a member. And I think that it comes back to them understanding the process behind it. So Rocky, Teresa, talk a little bit about best practices for that member to get involved and to understand how to be supported by the group. It's not that we're picking favorites, but there is a process behind it that has a lot of moving parts. So if you guys would help explain that.
Right, I'll start out, Rocky, and then you can give the more specifics. As a Realtor member, of course, we encourage Realtor members to be active in politics as much as you can, and understand the issues, understand the process, how it works, because politics does affect your business every single year, every single month. Any realtor who is interested in running for office, we do have a training program both in the north and the south, or it's more of an information program, what you need to do to move forward on this. The PACs, the people that make those decisions on who to support, have very specific criteria. If you're running against somebody, for instance, Jason Frierson is a very good friend of the Realtors, has been for a very long time. If you're in his district and want to run, that's a really tough race. We look at, is this winnable? Is there somebody that's in there that's already a friend of the Realtors and a proven friend of the Realtors? We can help through, give you a lot of advice about when it might be appropriate to run, whether or not you stand a chance even against somebody who's an incumbent, because all of that is really important. We won't support every realtor who runs, but if you are a realtor member and you have a good chance at a seat that we need, then of course we will look at you and make those decisions. But there's a lot of moving parts to decide whether the time is right for you, and whether you're a good candidate for any particular position.
So before we kind of talk about campaign schools, I want to go back to the structure that you talked about initially on how we deal at the state level, how we deal with the legislative session. I will tell you, I think I don't think it's a secret to anybody, right? We represent multiple clients in this state, several trade associations. We have taken the realtor model, and other trade associations have adapted that model. If you're working with Carrara, whatever flattery is the best compliment that's out there, right? Sure. Your structure that was developed and functioned so well is being used by other trade associations in this state because it's a very successful operation that helps the realtors and now is helping other organizations.
Makes sense.
What Teresa was talking about earlier, I think is a really important point, right? We, every year, the local GADs put on they're called realtor campaign schools, and they're run in the north and they're run in the south. And this is really the opportunity for the members who are contemplating running for office to get on the association's radar screen. I can't tell you how many times we go through the filing comes and goes, and my staff starts working through who's running and who, the realtor PAC trustees are going to want to know who should we interview and who should we not. And I can't tell you how many times we come across, realtors that are running for office that have not come to campaign school, have not spoken to anybody in leadership, has not spoken to the CEOs of their local associations, have not spoken to their local GADs, and they expect the endorsement, right? If you're interested in running for office, the first step is talk to your local president, talk to your local CEO, talk to your state president, your state CEO, talk to me, talk to anybody on my staff, or come to these campaign schools. These campaign schools are, are just absolutely spectacular. And I think, you know, there's a couple of folks in your shop, I think, that have actually participated in it and gone through them. We bring in, we bring in folks like John Ralston, who's one of the preeminent political reporters. You may or may not like his politics, but John runs a module on dealing with the press. We bring in Ryan Irwin, who is one of the premier, or Mike Slanker, who are two of the premier political consultants in the state, to talk to you about how to organize your campaign apparatus. Joe Bresney, who's my director of political operations, does a whole module on opposition research, right? And sort of the skeletons in your closet that you should be aware of. Ashley Cruz, who is on my staff, does a whole module on fundraising. So the member that is interested in running for office can get just a plethora of information by just spending half a day at one of these campaign schools to know whether, hey, I want to run or I don't want to run. And then at the end, generally the local GADs are coming in saying, here's how you get the endorsement of the association. And to Teresa's point, here are all the things that the trustees are going to look at. And the last thing I would mention is the trustees have just created the Realtor Champion program this election cycle. I don't know if you want me to talk about it now.
I think we'll break it out in just a second. And I apologize because this will be a longer video than usual. And I definitely say it's worth the time, because if you've ever asked these questions, I get them every year. I know members have asked, let's make this simple to explain it. So thank you again for digesting all of this. When it comes to the process, I think the important thing is that no realtor wants to say no to another realtor. I mean, we're all part of a family. We do care. It's not that we're picking favorites. I've heard many times, realtors only pick Republicans. It's unfair. The R stands for Republican, which is completely not true. This year alone, I participated in a couple of selections that were Democrats that we favored over someone we had supported in the past that was a Republican. And not that bad or good or different, it was just the presentation factor, the dynamics within the race, the way that they fundraise for their race. We want to pick someone who's going to be able to succeed, because that's the whole point. But I think coming back to the member, it's not like we leave them in the lurch. And I think that's the whole point of being involved. You may not be right for this position today, but you're a perfect candidate for what we're going to talk about in a minute with the Realtor Champion project. But the idea is that, we do provide some information. We provide great contact to you and your team. We provide great resources within the state to be able to promote the fact that you're a realtor. And I mean, I think the best thing that could happen is that we have a realtor running in every race in the state, right? It would be amazing to see that happen and to have people conditioned, because I've been running in realtor races. I haven't won every race. And I learned more from the ones that I lost than the ones that I won, because you see things that you won't do again and things that you'll do differently. So I think that there's a lot of value that comes from it. Just get engaged, just say something to somebody that you're looking to run. And I think many times people don't get the dynamic. So let's go into that for a minute. Let's talk about, Rocky, some stats on the numbers of who we've supported, independent, Republicans, Democrats, that you would say over the last probably 3 or 4 election campaigns that we've had.
Certainly. So, it's like the common myth that I hear is you support too many Republicans or too many Democrats.
Both sides. We get both sides all the time.
Yeah, we get both sides of it. The reality is it breaks about 55, 45, 54, 46. My math's not great, right? 51, 49. And some years it's Republicans, and some years it's Democrats. But I can assure anybody that's listening to this or watching this, right? It is not skewed 70-30. It is not skewed 80-20. Frankly, I wouldn't allow it as your chief lobbyist. I think Teresa wouldn't allow it as your CEO. And most importantly, the trustees won't allow it.
Yep.
So the reality is that you're kind of like my golf drive. It's straight and down the middle, and it's usually long.
Oh, come on. That's taken a little too far because I've seen you play golf, but I mean, you are a great golfer. I think that one of the things, Teresa, I'd like you to expand on for a second is the fact that the committees also aren't made up of just Republicans or just Democrats. We've actually invested a lot of time. And I will say in the past, it was slated one way or the other. And we've seen that change a lot over the last couple of years, and it's still changing. But it's also the people that are willing to serve. I mean, this is not fun every year. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, there are some years that you ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? And then there are others you're like, this is fantastic. I'm glad that I'm participating. But talk a little bit about the makeup of the groups and how the selection process goes.
Right. So for the PACs, we have an application process every year. We have approximately 50% turnover almost every year for the PAC. And we have approximately 50% retention. But with bringing in new people, we make a huge effort. We look for experience. We look for people who have shown that they are really interested in politics
Sure.
across the state, that they have invested at their local level their time and their energy and their knowledge to increase their experience level at the local level. So as they come up, they kind of know what's expected. They know the issues that are across the state. They know some of the players, because I'll tell you, the elected officials move up also. They start at the council level, at the commissioner level, and they move up into the assembly, the Senate, and further. So we look as a group, we get, I don't know, one year we had 10 or 12 people apply for 6 or 7 positions. And we look to create diversity within those associations, within that committee. We look for who's Democrat, who's Republican, what kind of experience they have. We look at their, whether they work for a big firm or a small firm, what geographic location they come from, just all of their experience levels. We look for specialties. We look, does somebody have property management experience versus commercial experience? And we put those people together with also people who've been around the block several times, many, many, many times in some cases. We have members who've been on for a lot of years. We try to interrupt their service from time to time. But there are simpler people that are so well versed in all of the politics and all of the history that their input is invaluable in reminding people about why we hold a certain policy position, what happened when we didn't have that policy, why we support somebody for the legislature that has been in 10 or 12 years and now they're running for a different office, why we support people or why we don't support people.
Yeah.
Yes, people can change, but if somebody has not been a friend of the realtors, sometimes we need to remember that. So we try to make these committees very full, very diverse, with a lot of experience coming in. So if you're interested, you got to start now and show that you're interested at your local level.
So thank you for that. It is amazing to see how it all comes together and the background and hard work. I mean, this has been years, if not decades, of presidents and board members and trustees and legislative committee members and members in general who have provided content and information, and Rocky and your incredible team and Teresa and the incredible staff at Nevada Realtors. I mean, it has taken a constant daily activity to get us to where we are. And I think, Rocky, to your initial point, people are modeling after us because we are the voice of real estate in Nevada. We are the people that they come to say, what do you think of these issues? Now, they may not always agree with us, right, but in every context, we're the first call usually. And that's because of the hard work of all of those people that are involved. And I think by no means is it 1 year or one process or one election cycle. But with that in mind, we noticed that each year, Rocky, I don't think there's a time that I've been on this board or involved politically with you and Teresa that it hasn't been the worst session ever. There's always been something that's coming down the road to us that we're fighting for to protect our membership, our homeowners. And I think that's the interesting part. We're looking out for our homeowners that, we're the only group that is lobbying for private property rights. And I think that the important thing is there's so many things that affect it. Now, we came out with something that you alluded to, the Realtor Champion. The idea behind it was that so many times the elected officials who were having to sway, and we're having to help them understand the real estate business. We're helping them understand the long-term effects of certain policies, and who better to understand it than a realtor? Someone that's been boots on the ground dealing with the issues, or someone who's within our industry that understands the effects or the jargon or the long-term process that we go through. And so this year, with the guidance of our board of directors and many different input levels, we created 2 different new PACs. And we funded those PACs with $2 million to show that we're serious. And we've already rolled out several realtor champions, and I'll let you guys talk about that. But also we're looking for people within our industry that can be our champion, to be our voice for real estate within the legislature or within certain levels of local and state government. So Rocky, talk a little bit about that if you will, and Teresa, I'll let you wrap up that point.
Sure. You're absolutely right. As usual, Chris, you're absolutely right. If we've had kind of a blind spot, it has been that we have friends in the legislature. We have folks that we can go to and talk to them about our issues, but we haven't really had champions inside that building. It's no fault of Carrara's. It's no fault of the associations, right? It is just we have not reached the critical mass until kind of now. And realtor champions are both Republicans and Democrats, right? They are members of what we call the Realtor Party, but they are specifically understanding they're in our industries. They're either realtors themselves, or they are in our industry and work in our industry and deal with our members. Those are the folks that have been identified as either realtor champions or realtor industry champions. And right now we have one sitting assemblywoman in Northern Nevada. Her name is Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, who happens to be a realtor working in our industry. The other is a Democrat from Southern Nevada. Her name is Sandra Howdicke. She's with a local title company down here. And then we have a realtor that's running for an open assembly seat. Her name is Heidi Kasama. We are cautiously optimistic that we will get her across the finish line and ultimately get her to Carson City as well. So those are kind of our first 3 sort of nominees that we are running with for this program.
Awesome. Teresa, you and I talked that the interesting part about doing this was the fact that we made a major commitment on behalf of the association, which was done through multiple levels of approval. We funded this initiative, and of course, the idea behind it is it's going to take a lot of time and energy and effort on our part to select and find these candidates. But how would they bring their name forward? What would be the best practice for them to say, hey, I want to be a realtor champion?
Right. So first, we've kind of covered a little bit of this, is to reach out to us. Reach out to me, to Rocky, to whoever's in leadership, Chris Bishop, or at the local level. But you need to let the association know that you are interested. If you are very knowledgeable about the issues and have a good, for instance, Heidi Kasama, there's an open seat in her district. She's very knowledgeable. She has a great background. She's a very smart lady, very qualified for this position at this time. And we've been talking with her for 4 or 5 years about maybe someday, when is it right, is it not? So if you're interested, it may take 3, 4, 5, 8 years before the right position opens up for you. But yeah, let us know, get your foot in the door with your own industry first, because we do have a lot of resources that we can offer to help you with your campaign.
So one of the things
Chris, just one other thing, right? The other thing I would put on everybody's radar screen that I know is not on folks' radar screen is this is going to be a reapportionment legislative session. Reapportionment is done once every 10 years, once a decade. It's based off of the census tracts. and it's where new political boundaries get drawn by the legislature. So, in terms of open seats, there is likely to be a number of open seats in the 2022 election cycle. So, to Teresa's point and your point, now's the time to come talk to us about some of this stuff.
Absolutely. So, real quick, one